Project Director and Head of Transmission Lines South at Svenska Kraftwerk, ladies and gentlemen, Martin Norlund.
Yes, thank you for the introduction and thanks for inviting me here. It's been a really interesting day today to hear about all this inspiring initiative that you have ongoing in this green transition. And I'm going to tell you a little about what our role as Svenska Kraftnät is in this green transition. So Svenska Kraftnät is the authority responsible for that Sweden's transmission line is safe, environmentally sound and cost-effective today and in the future. The government has assigned Svenska Kraftnät the task to maintain and develop the Swedish national grid. The national grid is the transmission line that transports the electricity from the power station like hydropower and wind power down to the regional grid owners and then to the local grid owners and then finally to the distribution consumers. So our grid is like the highway for electricity, you can say. And it's our customers is mostly the regional grid owners like Vattenfall and Ellevio. We have about 7,000 kilometers of transmission line that is connecting to each other and to the regional grid in 200 substations. Svenska Kraftnät doesn't own any production and is not allowed to do that either. So our responsibility is just through the transmission. We also own most of the interconnectors that connect us to our grid, to our neighbors. Svenska Kraftnät is also responsible for that we always have a balance in the system. At all times there must be balance between the production and the consumption so that we will have a stable electricity system. And if that balance is disturbed, we risk to have a major disruption in the grid with serious consequences. So Svenska Kraftnät is responsible to keeping this balance, and therefore we work around the clock to control in our control room where we monitor the amount of produced and consumed electricity all the time. We are also commissioned by the government to work to ensure that electricity trading can take place as smooth as possible and in a free competition. This applies to trading both within the Nordic countries but also with our European neighbors on the European countries. Svenska Kraftnät is the authority of electricity continuously planning. It is a task that has been more relevant now the recent year and includes the task to ensure that we have a robust electrical system that can handle serious strains. For example, if there are large storms or fires or dam accidents or act of terrorism, we make sure that we are taking to enhance our preparedness and that we are trained professionals and resources available. It includes not only our own grid but also the electricity system in general. Sweden and many other countries are facing a fundamental change and major reconstruction in the electricity system. And the electricity consumption in Sweden has been more or less the same since 1970s, but it's now predicted to double the next year, 20 years. The development is driven mostly about the industry's green transmission. And it's not only for transport and shipping where we are seeing big changes. As you know, the steel industries will use more electricity in their process instead of fossil fuel, and we also see many other industries that are coming now, like battery factories. and also the chemical industries, for example, here in this region. And Svenska kraftnät has an important player to make this transition possible. We developed and expand our grid based on the request for more power that we receive from our customers. At the moment, these requests roughly corresponds to the top power demand in Sweden today. So it's not unlikely that the electricity consumption in Sweden will double the next 20 years. It will be a big challenge that we need to overcome in order to meet this demand of the industry and being able to make this green transition. Svenska kraftnät has a limited expansion the past 20 years, where we have built around 600 kilometers of electricity lines. And we can see now the next 20 years, we plan to build more than 7,000 kilometers of transmission lines. So it's about 10 times more. And it's not only because we have an increased demand from new customers, it's also that we have an old grid that need to be reinvested and renewed. We also have a big program where we remove the bottlenecks in the system to reinforce the grid between the north and the south. And one important part that is not in our control, or not at least our mission, is that production needs to increase about the same rate as consumption to get a stable system. And electricity producers are private companies that operates in a competitive market where the price of electricity sets according to supply and demand. And it is important that they have the right conditions, and that the electricity production rapidly expanded in Sweden, and that they are built on good locations. And as you can see in this picture, it's not only that we need to build more production, it's also that some of the production will need to be renewed in the next 20 years. Gothenburg and Västra Götaland is one of the regions where we predict the largest increase of electricity consumption. And it's both that we have new battery factories and electrification of existing industry, like in Stenungsund. But it's also like in Port of Gothenburg with demands for battery charging and fuel production. And a challenge for Västra Götaland is that the area is already a deficit electricity area today. So the area produces about 30% of the electricity that is consumed within the area. So most of the electricity we need to transport to this region from power plants far away. And if the consumption will increase, then the supply, then we will have about maybe 10% that are produced here. If not, the production will increase also. And in Sweden, we are used to have a strong grid with good margins, which has meant that additional power demand had been able to meet without big investments in the grid. And in some way you can say that the grid has been like oversized, and where there have been capacities for connection new customers. But now, when the need in the area is so much bigger, then we can't handle it with the existing grid. Maybe we can increase about 10%. It could be okay, but not when when it will increase with 100%. And this has happened really fast. It's just like last 2 or 3 years where we have seen this increased demand. We didn't see this in our forecast for just a few years ago. And I think that it was not so many other that seen it either. One big challenge is also that it takes time to build new lines, and the expectations that when the industry wants to have the electricity. We normally calculate that it takes about 14 years to build a new line. And no industry wants to wait 14 years to expand and develop their businesses. So it's not only that we need to build 10 times more the next years, we also need to do it much faster. So what are we doing then? And we have many ongoing projects. First, we have ongoing projects that to renew the existing lines, and some of these lines are from the 1950s. And when we renew them, we also increase the capacity for these lines. So we have ongoing projects to renew lines from Trollhättan all along the west coast, and also from Hallsberg to Gothenburg. Then we have an important project to build a new line from Skogsätra outside Trollhättan to Stenungsund and to Stenkullen. And construction is ongoing for the southern part of that line. And for the northern part, we are trying to find the best route and then apply for permissions. But to be able to transmit even more power to this region, we need to continue to reinforce the system further north from Karlstad, 500 kilometers north up to Östersund. But as I said, it also needs to build, we also need to build our lines much faster. The Svenska kraftnät has a goal to cut the implementation time in half, so that we will have a new transmission line in place in 7 years instead of 14. And most of the project time is permit process. So that is important. That is one important reason why we started Accelerated Electrification of Västra Götaland. That is a collaboration between Västra Götalandsregionen, Länsstyrelsen i Västra Götaland i Svenska kraftnät. If you are able to shorten the lead times, we need to work together for the same goal. And this is not only a challenge for Svenska kraftnät, this is a challenge we have together, and we need to solve together. All authorities and municipalities and business companies need to work for the same goal. If we do not meet these needs from the companies, we risk not only to slowing down the green transition, but also that the companies will move from this region. So we have many ongoing initiatives to speed up the process. One important is that we are working much more with the important stakeholders in the early stages, that we try to find the best route early and hopefully avoid that we later on need to redo activities when we get some more information, so that we have all the information from the beginning. And with all the stakeholders around the same table, we also increase the understanding for each other processes and how we can shorten the lead time together. And one other important focus area is the forecast, where we work close together with the local grid owners to map the future power demands. It is important that we have the whole picture to make the right decisions, how we can use the existing grid in the best way, and where we need to reinforce, which project have the highest priority. One other really important thing is the flexible market. As I said before, the existing grid is nearly full, but it is only full the coldest day of the year when there's no wind and we get a failure on one of the most important transmission lines that can cause a major failure. So this means that the grid is built to manage the worst case, the coldest day of the year, with the highest consumption. So if we could have a flexible customer that can accept to reduce the consumption during these hours, then we have a much better situation. And I think that the production of fuel that is planned in Gothenburg and maybe also charging of ferries can have that flexibility, and that it could be a good match there. But one thing that is really important is to increase the production. As I said before, we are depending on other companies here, like Gothenburg, Vattenfall, and wind power companies, that they want to invest in electricity production in the region, and that they also have the right conditions. And we feel we need all kind of production. We need both renewables, but we also need plannable energy production and also electricity storage. So if production starts up in Stenungsund, for example, then we'll have a much better situation for this region. And one last thing that is also really important is the competence development. Energy sector is growing fast now, and it's not only in Sweden that needs, not only Svenska Kraftnät that needs more people. Last year we opened our office here in Gothenburg, and new employees starts every day. More people are needed at the energy companies, the authorities, and the construction companies, and so on. So I hope you all will encourage your kids and other people to work in this energy sector today and in the future. So these are the key issues for success: reducing the lead times and stakeholder engagement, and predictable permitting processes, flexible energy market, and more production and competence development. So if we are working together for the same goal, we will be able to carry out this green transition and reduce global emissions.
Thank you very much, Martin Norlund.